tenure. But the reason we believe that is we believe that this insulation from political influence does contribute to a more fair, more just opinion that draws on the relevant expertise when necessary.
Haven't a lot of presidents expressed frustration at their difficulty in moving the bureaucracy in the direction they would like it to go?
Yes, this is not isolated to one party. It's a long-term frustration. And yet it's a frustration its defenders would say that is essential to make sure that the executive branch has institutional knowledge and that it has career civil servants who are there for reasons other than partisan favor, that they have more of a sense of camaraderie and commitment to the role.
Now, what Jade Manners just described, the purpose of a civil service, is what Russell Vogt, Trump's former budget director, disapproves.
The notion of an independent agency, whether that's a flat-out independent agency like the FCC or a agency that has parts of it that view itself as independent like the Department of Justice, we're planting a flag and saying we reject that notion completely.
You mentioned the Justice Department. Of course, the president already nominates and gives directions, policy directions, to whoever may be Attorney General. Do you think the president also should be able to direct the outcomes of specific criminal investigations?
Well, he certainly should be able to identify his priorities with regard to what the Department of Justice is pursuing in ensuring that the agenda that he ran on can be executed within the Department of Justice.
All this leads to a bottom line question which we put to vote. Should the president have the power to order the Justice Department to drop its own indictment of him? Here's how he answered.
I think he has the power to expect that when he brings in an administration, that administration is not weaponized against him.
What about the yes-no question? Does President Trump, if he's reelected, have the power to do that?
The president has a lot of power to do a lot of things. That doesn't mean that he, exercising from a standpoint of wisdom, does those things.
I am trying to interpret, because you haven't said yes or no, it sounds like you're saying that yes, Donald Trump would have that power, although it might be unwise. Is that your answer?
I am suggesting that the president has the authority under the Constitution to conduct law enforcement. I am not predicting that a president that is exercising those authorities is going to make unwise decisions and unwise instructions to his appointees to be able to make partisan decisions that the American people who put him into office would find offensive or odious. And I think that is a complicated answer to your question.
So we could trust Donald Trump not to do that?
Yes, I think you can absolutely trust Donald Trump not to do that.
Still, the prospect of Trump ending his prosecution has become part of the conversation. Trump himself has alleged that he faces a purely political prosecution, as he said recently at an event in Iowa.
And by the way, if I weren't running, I would have nobody coming after me.
At that same Iowa event, another Republican candidate, Will Hurd, said Trump has the story wrong. He's not being prosecuted because he's running. It's the other way around.
Donald Trump is running to stay out of prison. And if we elect...
Some of the audience booed, but even some of Trump's Republican rivals have promised that if they are elected, they'd keep him out of prison too. This is NPR News.
This is 91.7 WVXU. Support comes from FindHelpNowKY.org. Those who face addiction are not all the same, but there is one thing most do have in common. Most won't seek help until they are ready. When you or a loved one are ready, there's a list of every treatment center accepting new clients at FindHelpNowKY.org.
This traffic report is supported by Murphy Tractors. 75 northbound at Kyles Lane. There's a broken down. It is on the exit ramp.
Support comes from Home Stretch, a Cincinnati-based company that provides a single solution for realtors and homeowners who are preparing a home to sell. Home Stretch's services include home clearouts, painting, flooring installation, and landscaping. To learn more or schedule a consultation, you can visit home-stretch.com.
Here's the 9-Force warning weather forecast. Scattered showers and storms, the strongest storms to the east and a high of 80. Then partly cloudy and milder and a low of 63. For tomorrow, partly cloudy to mostly sunny and a high of 83. Then tomorrow night, a few clouds, mild and a low of 65. It's 70 degrees now. Coming up at 10 on 1A, attempts by the U.S. and its allies to corner Russia in the hopes that it will abandon its fight in Ukraine don't seem to be working. Hear about it today at 10 on 1A on 91.7.
On the next Fresh Air, Jason Moran is at the piano to play music that shows how he's drawn from early jazz, hip-hop, and the avant-garde. His latest album is his take on the music of James Reese Europe, the composer and musician who led the Harlem Hellfighters Regiment Band in World War I. Europe had a short but remarkable life. Join us.
That's today at 1 on 91.7 WVXU.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Hint, maker of fruit-infused water with no sugar or diet sweeteners. Available in more than 25 flavors, including watermelon and pineapple. In stores or delivered from hintwater.com. From Indeed, designed to be an end-to-end hiring solution for businesses of any size to attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. More at Indeed.com/NPR. From Procter & Gamble, maker of Align Probiotic, a daily supplement designed by gastroenterologists to help relieve occasional bloating, gas, and abdominal discomfort. More at AlignProbiotics.com. And from listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Sarah McCammon. Okay, if you can, stop what you're doing, breathe in through your nose. What do you smell? Well, if you're lucky, it's morning coffee. But for a lot of us, the answer might be not all that much. Researchers say many in the U.S. are deprived of smells that we've come to expect an odorless world. And a new study suggests our learning and memory might be well served if we were exposed to more smells as we age. NPR's Ping Huang reports.
Michael Leon is a neurobiologist. He's a professor emeritus at University of California, Irvine, and as an experiment, he gave a few dozen healthy older adults diffusers, machines that release smells in a room, and also different essential oils to go in them.
So, rose, orange, eucalyptus, lemon, peppermint, rosemary, and lavender.
Each night, a different scent would waft through the bedroom, and over the course of 6 months, there was a 226% improvement on a learning and memory test among those who slept with a strong nightly scent compared with those that diffused distilled water every night. Leon says the scents were stimulating the memory centers of people's brains as they slept. The results were published recently in the journal Frontiers in Neuroscience. Now, the study was small, just 43 people, and their data collection got interrupted by the pandemic. Still, Leon says it jives with the understanding of how smell is connected to learning and memory.
Most people who live in our affluent society are actually deprived chronically of the odor stimulation that their brain needs.
This living in a scent-free world, combined with the wear and tear that comes with aging, means that around the time people turn 60, their sense of smell and memory starts declining together. In a previous study, researchers in Korea found that twice daily intensive smell therapy can help improve memory and attention in those with moderate dementia. Leon's study was testing more passive ways to stimulate the brain.
The idea is that it will keep the memory centers of your brain in good condition throughout life and perhaps prevent memory loss older in life.
Leon says there's definitely more research to be done, but he thinks there's enough evidence to try this at home. He thinks almost everyone can get more smells into their lives. Ping Huang, NPR News.
Okay, many grocery stores offer so-called prebiotic drinks. These cans of fizzy soda are supposed to boost your fiber intake and gut health. That's what the can says. So do they work? NPR's Maria Godoy reports.
I have a confession to make. I'm kind of obsessed with fiber, and I'm not alone. Hannah Holster calls herself a fiber nerd.
There's been so much research that have shown that if you consume more fiber, you are healthier.
Holscher is an associate professor of nutrition at the University of Illinois. She says fiber does way more than just help keep us more regular. It helps control blood sugar levels and lower cholesterol and inflammation. One review of nearly 200 studies and dozens of clinical trials found high fiber diets were linked to a lower risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and many other health concerns.
They looked at all-cause mortality as well as cardiovascular disease, cancer, just a range of health issues that a lot of Americans face, and found consistently that individuals that consume more fiber had better health outcomes.
Now, one big reason why fiber is so important to good health is that it can feed the diverse community of microorganisms that live in our guts. Fibers that do this are known as prebiotics. Justin Sonnenberg is a professor of microbiology and immunology at Stanford University. He says these gut microbes play a critical role in influencing health throughout our bodies.
There's just this huge range of things: allergies, asthma, anything having to do with the immune system, metabolism, cardiovascular health. Basically, there's no part of our biology that goes untouched by our gut microbes.
Sonnenberg says when you eat lots of plant-based fiber, you keep your gut microbes happy, plentiful, and diverse, which is important because different microbes do different things to help keep you healthy.
If you're not eating a high fiber diet, your gut microbes are actually kind of starving. And when they're starving, they actually look for other things to eat. And one of those other things that they eat is actually the lining of your gut.
In other words, if you don't feed your gut microbes enough fiber, they might start to eat you.
Right, exactly.
Sonnenberg says he and pretty much everyone else that studies the gut microbiome are fiber fanatics. He says one time at a gathering of researchers,
the people that were in charge of the dining hall came up to us and said, "What group is this that's here this week? We can't keep the salad bar stocked." And the reason is that everybody that studies the gut microbiome is obsessed with eating dietary fiber, plant-based fiber.
But they're definitely in the minority. Less than 10% of Americans eat the recommended amount of daily fiber, which is 14 grams for every 1,000 calories we consume. But awareness is growing. Gut health is one of the most popular hashtags on TikTok and a wellness buzzword these days. And food companies are cashing in with a slew of products that contain prebiotic fibers, like those prebiotic carbonated beverages, Olipop, Poppy, Vive Organic. But are these products actually good for your gut?
The intuition there, I think, by the field is that that's probably better than nothing.
But Sonnenberg says it's not clear that prebiotic fibers added to processed food and drinks have all the benefits that come with eating a variety of foods that are naturally high in fiber. Hannah Holscher of the University of Illinois agrees the best bet is to focus on diet.
One of the simple messages we like to tell people is to eat more fiber, to eat the rainbow.
That means eating lots of different fruits and vegetables, as well as whole grains and nuts. Think beans, oats, sweet potatoes, pumpkin and chia seeds, pears, berries, and avocados, apples and onions. Not only are these foods a good source of fiber, they also contain other nutrients that promote good health. Maria Godoy, NPR News.
Support for NPR health coverage comes from Procter & Gamble, maker of ZzzQuil Pure Z's gummies, designed with melatonin for occasional sleeplessness to help people fall asleep naturally. Learn more at ZzzQuil.com.
I have a gut feeling that this is NPR News.
Today, hip-hop is a global, multi-billion-dollar industry, but when it started 50 years ago, it was just young people partying in the Bronx.
It was poor urban people kind of making lemonade out of lemons. They didn't mean to start this cultural phenomenon.
I'm Juana Summers. How hip-hop began. On All Things Considered from NPR News.
Tune in this afternoon with Bill Reinhardt, beginning at 4 on 91.7.
Support comes from I1 Unique Eyewear, a local independent optical shop with classic styles in tortoise to distinctive shades in a kaleidoscope of colors, celebrating over 20 years on Hyde Park Square, also in Dayton at the shops of Oakwood. i-1.com. I1 Unique Eyewear. Discover great art.
New storm development by 10 expected this morning. Then for the rest of the afternoon, scattered thunderstorms will be possible, the strongest east of Cincinnati. It's 70 degrees now.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Dave Mattingly. The Justice Department is asking a federal judge to impose a protective order against former President Donald Trump. The DOJ says it wants to prevent Trump from disclosing evidence in the case involving his alleged efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. NPR's Dave Mistich says Trump's lawyers have until this afternoon to respond to the request by federal prosecutors.
In requesting the protective order, prosecutors cited Trump's social media post Friday, in which he wrote, quote, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you." Attorneys for the former president asked for an extension to respond to prosecutors' request, but Chutkan denied that effort. Speaking at a South Carolina GOP dinner, Trump continued to take aim at the special prosecutor overseeing the case.
Deranged Jack Smith. He's a deranged human being. You take a look at that face, you say, that guy is a sick man. There's something wrong with him.
Trump was arraigned and pleaded not guilty last week on 4 counts, including conspiracy to defraud the government. Dave Mistich, NPR News.
Authorities in Southern California say it was a mid-air collision involving 2 helicopters that left 3 people dead yesterday northwest of Palm Springs. One helicopter landed safely, the other went down, killing the pilot and 2 members of CAL FIRE. At the time, that aircraft was working a brush fire in Riverside County. This is NPR News from Washington.
Good morning, I'm Ann Thompson. This is 91.7 WVXU. Churches throughout Ohio are speaking out for and against Issue 1, the proposed change to the Constitution that would make it harder to pass future amendments. And as State House correspondent Joe Ingles reports, that's allowed by law.
While churches have been key in the Pro-Issue 1 campaign, some faith leaders gathered in Columbus to show their opposition.
We are faithful, we will go.
And in Cincinnati, there's a rally to pray the rosary, even though Michelle Duffy with the Catholic Conference of Ohio says that group hasn't taken a stand.
The bishops of Ohio are neutral on Issue 1. There's no direct moral content.
Cherie Strong, director of the Ray C. Bliss Institute at the University of Akron, says churches are permitted to do this.
They're just not allowed to tie those to support for a particular candidate.
And that also goes for the abortion access issue on the statewide ballot this November. Joe Ingles at the Ohio Public Radio State House News Bureau.
Hamilton County officials today will decide how much voters will be asked to give the zoo in November. WVXU's Nick Swartzell has more.
The Cincinnati Zoo says it needs more money to keep up with inflation after going without a levy increase since 2008. Hamilton County commissioners will vote on how much more to ask for on the November ballot. They'll have 3 options. One would keep the zoo levy at its current level, which raises about $7.3 million a year. 2 other options would raise the levy. The higher of the 2 would cost the owner of a property worth $100,000 an extra $3.85 a year. The county's tax levy review committee recommended the higher increase, which would raise an extra $2.4 million a year. Nick Swartzell, 91.7 WVXU.
Here's the forecast. Scattered showers and storms, the strongest storms to the east, and a high of 80. New storm development expected around 10 this morning. Then tonight, partly cloudy, milder, and a low of 63. Tomorrow, partly cloudy to mostly sunny and a high of 83. Then tomorrow night, a few clouds, mild and a low 65. It's 70 degrees in both Cincinnati and Dayton. I'm Ann Thompson. This is 91.7 WVXU.
Labeling around the risk of suicidal ideation for all antidepressants, unrelated to if they saw anything in the trials.
You mentioned this is designed to be taken for 14 days. I have been a new mom. I can state with authority that things don't just snap back to normal after 14 days. What happens after that?
Well, this medication is really, again, rewiring the brain. And so we have research from preclinical studies that show that it's able to switch the brain into a healthier state. You're right. Postpartum time is very difficult, challenging time for new parents. And if they do need additional treatments after day 14, then we have other things. We can, use talk therapies and such.
A version of this drug is already out there on the market. It requires being hospitalized for 3 days. This is supervised intravenous treatment. And the intravenous treatment was priced at $34,000, I read. How much is this pill going to cost?
It takes time for us to even understand the insurance coverage of medications once they're released. So we're eagerly awaiting, though we will have to wait some time to find out the cost of the treatment course, and then also how insurers will cover this new medication.
What's your take, doctor, on why this has taken so long? Postpartum depression has been around, I imagine, for as long as there have been new mothers, i.e. since the very beginning of humankind.
It truly has, and I think that this is just another health condition that women suffer from that's been understudied. So we're doing that work, but it's only the second antidepressant for FDA approval for this condition.
Christina Delagenidis is a professor at the Institute of Behavioral Science at the Feinstein Institutes for Medical Research. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
If you or someone you know may be considering suicide or is in crisis, you can call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Just those 3 digits, 988.
As overdose deaths from fentanyl have soared, the issue has exploded as a top concern in Washington. Most of the illicit fentanyl on U.S. streets is seeping in from Mexico, and immigration authorities say the vast majority of the smuggling happens at official ports of entry. But not everyone believes that's the full story. NPR's Joel Rose traveled to the border to find out what's really happening.
Tractor trailers idle at the port of Nogales in southern Arizona, waiting to carry more than 30 million pounds a day of tomatoes, grapes, and other produce into the U.S., while workers, students, and tourists pass through in cars and on foot by the thousands. Hiding in all that legal commerce and traffic are drugs, including fentanyl.
This year, fentanyl is coming out. It's going throughout the U.S. Everyone over here about addiction and overdose problems.
Michael Humphreys is the port director in Nogales. Humphreys has decades of experience at U.S. Customs and Border Protection, trying to stop contraband at the border. But synthetic opioids like fentanyl are hard to catch because they are so easy to conceal. Fentanyl is also more potent and cheaper to make than organic drugs like heroin or cocaine. And smugglers have gotten very good at hiding it, especially in passenger cars.
We don't open the trunk and think, hey, there's a bag of fentanyl powder or pills. We're looking at tires, gas tanks, roofs, floors, seats, anywhere you can imagine.
I mean, you're talking about in the engine sometimes, right? In the gas tank, deep in the vehicles.
We have disassembled engines before. One time they pulled out 2 pistons from the engine. The void created by that was filled with narcotics, and the engine was still running.
Fentanyl seizures have been climbing across the border, especially in California and Arizona. Close to 90% of that fentanyl is seized at ports of entry. Immigration authorities say it is smuggled mostly by U.S. citizens, as well as other travelers who are legally authorized to cross. Virtually none is seized from migrants who are seeking asylum.
Our analysis, our intelligence continues to point to most of it is being smuggled at the ports of entry.
Troy Miller is the acting commissioner of Customs and Border Protection. He says it is less risky for drug cartels to smuggle fentanyl through the ports.
They're able to hide the narcotics and legitimate travel. They're able to surveil the travelers. They have pre-existing logistics routes to move the narcotics quicker.
As the number of overdose deaths from fentanyl keeps climbing, smuggling has become a bigger issue in Washington, D.C. And the way fentanyl enters the country has become the subject of intense debate. Some of the leading voices in the Republican Party reject the official narrative that it is mostly coming through the ports. They believe there's a lot more fentanyl that's not being caught.
The video cameras on the border show the cartel members in camouflage outfits wearing backpacks full of fentanyl pouring into our country.
There's a tremendous amount of illicit fentanyl and crossing between ports of entry.
That's Representative Mark Green of Tennessee, chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, and Representative Clay Higgins of Louisiana. It's true that the Border Patrol does catch some fentanyl smuggled between the ports. Here's John Modlin, the chief of the Border Patrol's Tucson sector, testifying at a congressional hearing in February.
Last year we seized about 700 pounds of fentanyl. That was encountered, 52% of that, so the majority of that was encountered in the field. So that is predominantly being backpacked across the border.
The Border Patrol in Tucson is on pace to surpass that total this year. But even so, that is just a small fraction of the 10,000 pounds that were seized in Nogales and other ports in Arizona.
Still, Republicans say that there could be far more fentanyl hiding in the backpacks of smugglers that the Border Patrol is not catching, because agents are distracted by dealing with migrants crossing the border. Some argue that's allowing smugglers to sneak more of their product across in wide stretches of terrain between ports.
These mountains over here are in the ranch.
Jim Chilton points to a line of jagged mountains between his house and the U.S.-Mexico border. Chilton is a rancher in southern Arizona, about an hour's drive northwest of Nogales. He will tell anyone who asks about smugglers using the trails through these mountains on his ranch. Chilton says video cameras have captured images of more than 3,000 people over the past 2 years.
Nobody's in street clothes. They are in camouflage clothing, camouflage backpacks, and they're wearing carpet shoes.
Carpet shoes are like slippers made of carpet that go over your regular shoes. They hide the tread to make it harder for the Border Patrol to track your footsteps. Chilton has a big pile of carpet shoes in his driveway from people who've crossed his land. That doesn't prove they were carrying drugs, though Chilton believes some of them were.
I know from the Border Patrol that about 20% of the 3,000 the last couple of years are packing hard drugs. Fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, meth.
Some local law enforcement officials, though, are skeptical. No one disputes that there's a lot of human smuggling going on in the mountains and desert around Nogales. These migrants pay smugglers thousands of dollars to sneak them into the U.S. without detection. But whether those border crossers are carrying large quantities of fentanyl or other drugs, that is debatable.
And this is right now where you would consider a hot location for national activity.
Arlette Cabrera is a sheriff's deputy in Santa Cruz County, which includes Nogales. She's also a part of Operation Stone Dog. That's a collaboration with the Border Patrol to catch migrants and smugglers in the rough terrain far from the ports of entry. We rode in her truck to a few popular crossing points.
As you can see, there's a lot of trees, a lot of green, so it's harder to locate. It's easier for them to hide.
Almost every day, Cabrera says she catches migrants walking these trails, trying to sneak further into the U.S. I asked if she's ever caught smugglers carrying fentanyl or other drugs.
So for the past 2.5 years to 3 years, you don't really see a lot of drugs moving. I have yet to run into somebody, carrying a good amount of drugs, inside a backpack or anything.
Out here, it's mostly people being smuggled, Cabrera says. If you're looking for drugs, she says they're at the port of entry, where they are largely smuggled by U.S. citizens and other authorized border crossers. We'll meet one of those couriers in the second part of our story tomorrow morning. Joel Rhodes, NPR News, Nogales, Arizona.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
And this is 91.7 WVXU. Good evening, it's 6:18. I'm Pam Temple. The UAW union is asking major car makers for a 40% raise for workers over the life of their next contract. Why is the union come out swinging in their demand, and is the tight labor market giving them leverage? Listen for that story on Marketplace in 20 minutes at 6:30.
Support comes from Music and Event Management, Inc., presenting electronic violinist, dancer, and artist Lindsey Sterling with special guest Walk Off the Earth at PNC Pavilion on August 10th. Tickets available now at Ticketmaster.com and the PNC Pavilion box office. Lindsey Sterling and Walk Off the Earth live in Cincinnati on August 10th.
Turn to WVXU when you want to be informed. WVXU brings you award-winning local and national news on air at 91.7 and 88.5. Online at WVXU.org, on our mobile app for your smartphone or tablet, or by asking your smart speaker to play WVXU.
Support comes from Home Stretch, a Cincinnati-based company that provides a single solution for realtors and homeowners who are preparing a home to sell. Home Stretch's services include home clearouts, painting, flooring installation, and landscaping. To learn more or schedule a consultation, you can visit home-stretch.com.
91.7 WVXU listeners are educated, professional, civic-minded, and affluent. If your organization, business, or nonprofit will benefit by reaching this community, sponsorship on WVXU can help open that door. Learn more about the power and benefits of WVXU sponsorship at WVXU.org and click on sponsorship.
Support for WVXU comes from listeners like you and from the YMCA's Black and Latino Achievers Program, a Saturday morning college readiness and career exploration program for high school students. To learn more about impactful youth programs in your community, visit mywhy.org. That's mywhy.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from BritBox, streaming new and original British series starring Succession's Matthew McFadden and Game of Thrones' Gemma Whelan. Available at BritBox.com/NPR. From Indeed, a hiring platform designed to streamline the hiring process. Indeed works to help businesses attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. More at Indeed.com/NPR. And from listeners like you who donate to this NPR station. From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Elsa Chang.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. We're going to turn now to an experiment that seems excruciating in the midst of the current global heat wave. Researchers at University of California, Berkeley put thousands of people in hot rooms to find out if high temperatures could make us all more violent. NPR's Nurit Eisenman reports.
The subjects of this experiment included college students in Nairobi, Kenya. In groups of 6, they were ushered into one of 2 possible rooms.
which saddled many of them with debts for homes that never materialized. Consumers dealing with that are not about to go on wild shopping sprees. There are bigger issues at play too, says Scott Kennedy, the China expert at the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
China is sitting on a mountain of debt.
Particularly, he says, at the local government level.
And a demographic transition, a graying of the population, together making it difficult for any type of stimulus they provide to actually bite.
In the past, Beijing has lit a fire under its economy through investment, often debt-driven, in infrastructure and manufacturing.
That couldn't go on forever.
Aaron Friedberg is professor of politics at Princeton.
There's only so much infrastructure you can build, and there are only so many Chinese exports that other countries can absorb.
He questions whether a government used to tight control will let its economy be innovative and productive enough to spur high growth. On the other hand, China has defied expectations many times in the past. In New York, I'm Sabrina Benashore from Marketplace.
The number of the day today is 40, that's in percent, and it's the pay raise that workers at Detroit's big three automakers are hoping to get in their next contract. The two sides are in negotiations now, and the United Auto Workers Union is swinging for the fences: higher pay, shorter hours, and better benefits. It is quite the switch from the last round of bargaining. Marketplace's Henriette has more on the bigger dynamics that are giving the union such a big confidence boost.
UAW President Sean Fain says there's a clear reason to push for a big increase in a new contract for workers at GM, Ford, and Stellantis. He spoke to workers last week in a live stream address.
We have to work longer and harder just to maintain the same standard of living we have.
So that's why the UAW is seeking a 40% wage increase over the course of the union's next contract, which seems like a lot, right?
In normal times, yes, it would sound like a huge raise, and it would sound like a unrealistic expectation.
Mark Wheaton is at Cornell's School of Industrial and Labor Relations. He says these are not normal times. Inflation has been high, the labor market is still tight, and unions in other industries have negotiated sizable wage increases this summer, like pilots for United Airlines and workers for UPS. Plus, Wheaton says, citing a Gallup poll from last year, unions are well liked right now.
So the general public has over a 71% favorability of unions.
Combine those factors with strong profits for carmakers, and the UAW and unions more generally are in a rare position of bargaining strength, says Dan Lavasso, a law professor at West Virginia University.
Most of the time, the union is not in a good position. Most of the time, they're not going to have all these factors for that.
So it makes sense for the union to come into these negotiations with high demands, but she says they'll likely settle for less.
This is not their bottom line. I'm sure this is aspiration.
And automakers are pushing back. In a statement, GM said the UAW's demands would, quote, threaten our ability to do what's right for the long-term benefit of the team. So expect a lot more back and forth before the contract deadline next month. I'm Henry App for Marketplace.
There was confidence all over the place on Wall Street today. We'll have the details when we do the numbers. Thursday, the latest reading on inflation will be upon us. Consumer prices have been falling for months. The CPI is at 4% now, down from 9% last summer. But some prices are still rising faster than overall inflation. Among them, car repairs, which are currently almost 20% more expensive than they were a year ago. Why? Here's Marketplace's Samantha Fields with some answers.
If something goes wrong with your car these days, you might have trouble just finding someone to fix it. That's what happened to Kristen G-Check recently when her check engine light went on.
I called around at a couple places, couldn't even get me in to get it evaluated until mid-September.
G-Check, a policy advisor at the Chicago Fed focused on the auto industry, says that's one reason it's gotten more expensive to repair cars.
There's a tight labor market, and, wages have gone up, hours have gone up.
But it's not just labor, it's parts, too. David Long owns Omega Auto Clinic in Newton, Kansas. And he says in the last couple of years,
there's a lot of things that have really doubled and tripled in price, like R134 Freon to charge up people's air conditioners that used to be $90 a bottle. Now it's $500.
Car batteries used to run him about $100. Now they're closer to $200. And he says it's not unusual to get a car in, find it needs a certain part, say a catalytic converter,
and you look it up and it says out of stock, national backorder. So you do find someone that does have the parts. They know they're the only ones selling those. They mark them up pretty heavily.
As with everything when we talk inflation, a lot of the rising cost of car repair boils down to supply and demand, and residual pandemic issues with both parts and labor. But K. Venkatesh Prasad at the Center for Automotive Research says there's another big non-pandemic reason. Newer cars are more complicated to fix.
Almost anything you touch now is coupled to something else or has sensors embedded in it. That's bumpers or rear view mirrors.
So often now, a seemingly minor issue becomes a big, expensive repair.
Let's say your side view mirrors got damaged as you were entering a garage. Just 5 years ago, it would have been a relatively easy replacement, pure mechanical. Now it involved a camera sitting in that side view mirror. That camera unit was controlled with a microchip somewhere.
So there are more parts to fix that are more expensive. And the work itself is going to take longer, which means you're going to be charged more for labor, too.
It's not just individual bits and pieces anymore. Everything's tied together.
David Long had a customer come into his shop in Kansas recently because their car radio wasn't working.
And what we found out was the radio is fine, but it needs to talk to the computer that controls the multimedia interface for the car. That computer was bad, and the computer was $2,000, and taking it all apart, getting to it was going to be $3,000 or $4,000. Back in the day, you could just replace your radio.
For a couple $100. In addition to running Omega Auto Clinic, Long also has a YouTube channel, Car Wizard. And in some of his videos, he's started explaining why car repairs are getting so much more expensive.
Today we're going to continue the series of My What is Broken. We're going to talk about how this little black box can cost you $1,000, possibly $2,000.
The little black box he's holding up in the video is a motor that helps control the car's heat and AC.
Back in the old days, when you would change the temperature or the floor, vent, defrost, it would literally have these metal cables. There was no electronics involved. It was all mechanical, and they barely ever worked. And when they did, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Now, Long explains it's all electronic, and it's crammed way up inside the dashboard, where it's hard to access and expensive to fix. And he says this is the future as cars get more high-tech.
I've told people in the past where we were used to $500 repairs, $600 repairs, maybe $1,000 if something's bad. I told them in the next coming years we need to start preparing for $2,000 and $5,000 and $10,000 repairs.
He says that's what it's going to take to fix cars. I'm Samantha Fields for Marketplace.
American Rescue Plan to provide debt relief for farmers of color. Most of those payments have yet to go out because white farmers have filed suit claiming discrimination. 2 years ago, though, when the debt relief plan was first announced, we had Dwayne Goldman on. Let's talk about it. He's a senior advisor for racial equity to the Secretary of Agriculture. So given the continued delays in those payments, we called him up again. Dr. Goldman, thanks for coming on.
Great to be here, Guy.
So let me ask you, first of all, you're a practicing farmer in addition to doing all the policy stuff that we get to in a minute. How are things on the farm these days?
It was a challenging year. We had lots of rain early on that made getting the crop in kind of challenging, and then rains in in June that were really helpful. And now it's hot and dry. You know, we keep everything ordered and coming along, and things look good.
I imagine all the policy work you do and the advising you do at the Department of Agriculture keeps you pretty busy, and as you said, away from the farm. I do want to note, though, that these are challenging times not just for you as a farmer, but for you as a guy who now has to convince black farmers in this economy that the Department of Agriculture is on their side, because it's difficult for black farmers to get the resources that they believe they have been promised from the federal government.
Right. You're spot on, Mr. Rizdal. I mean, it is challenging, and some of the hurdles that we've encountered as we've been marching toward a more equitable USDA has heightened the challenges. But we continue to make steady progress working with black farmers and all of our customers on making sure that we show up the right way, addressing their needs, their concerns, in a way that is meaningful to them. Farming is a lovely occupation, but it's very diverse, and so it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all approach. Particularly when you look at the diversity of our producers and their unique backgrounds. But yeah, we do continue to make steady progress.
As you look at your, are they customers, clients? I don't know. But as you look at black farming in this economy, what do you suppose their biggest challenges are?
A couple of them. On the one hand, I've heard it said that when other farmers get a cold, black farmers get pneumonia. And that's to point out that because of some of the disparities that's well established in the history of black farmers in this country, you do find a set of customers that have been left out of key opportunities, and we find ourselves trying to deal with those disparities. And so you were asking about my little farm, the fact that we're not set up to irrigate, for instance, there's still a gap in irrigation among black farmers, and that means that a lot of them find themselves in a position where they're not able to respond to the unique need. And it's hard for them to adapt and keep production where it needs to be in order to sustain an operation. And as we get serious about this work, we find ourselves trying to invest in policies that will really help infrastructure that will make all of our farming more resilient, and that's certainly important for black farmers.
You strike me, Dr. Goldman, and look, we've never met, and we've spoken exactly twice. You strike me as a guy who doesn't like to sit in an office, but rather to get out and talk to people. So I'm right, okay? You'd rather get out and talk to people and maybe walk their land with them. And I guess my question is, and please don't take this pejoratively, but how do you get them to trust you when the misdeeds on the part of the federal government and the Department of Agriculture go back decades, if not more, in the treatment of black farmers in this economy?
It can be tough. I've had the opportunity to spend time with some of our farmers who are literally pissed off, and it's not unwarranted. What I have to remind myself is, Dwayne, they're pissed off at the system, not necessarily you, even though it's hard to separate those sometimes, okay? But the one thing that I've learned from engaging in those kind of discussions is that eventually you'll come to common ground. When you can shift the conversation from complaints and criticisms to solutions, that's when we start to make progress. Growing up as a third-generation farmer in southern Arkansas, I can now look back on our history and see some of the missed opportunities. I can see things that were afforded to some folks in our community, some of our white neighbors, that my dad really didn't have a realistic chance at. And it's those kinds of things, it's those kinds of observations that I think lends a little bit of credibility to the work that we're trying to do and helps us, on our path to equity.
Dr. Dwayne Goldman is Senior Advisor for Racial Justice and Equity at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and also a farmer, so he knows what he's talking about. Dr. Goldman, thanks for your time, sir. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Always a pleasure, Mr. Rizdal.
Coming up.
And there's dozens of pinhole leaks inside of this operation.
Gonna take more than duct tape to fix that up, huh? First though, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's up 407 today, 1.1%, 35,473. The Nasdaq added 85 points, about 0.6%, 13,994. The S&P 500 up 40 points, 0.9%, 45 and 18 there. Henry Epp was telling us about the UAW and what they want out of these negotiations. So where did the automakers land today, anyhow? GM wrapped up 1.4%. Ford accelerated 0.3%. Stellantis, once upon a time Fiat Chrysler, once upon a time before that, just Chrysler, slowed down 0.3%. Campbell's Soup announced it's going to buy Sovos Brands, that's the parent company for sauce maker Rouse, and the Italian cuisine company Michelangelo's. 2 words, Michelangelo's. Soup makers paying more than $2 billion cash. Campbell's poured off nearly 1.8% today. You're listening to Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Glassdoor. Professionals can join real, anonymous talk with others from their company, industry, and more in Glassdoor's workplace communities. From career advice to coworker wisdom, people are asking tough questions and getting real-time answers on the new Glassdoor app. And by Amazon Business. From small business to big enterprise and everything in between, Amazon Business helps simplify the supplies buying process. Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying.
Support comes from Design to Market Home Staging, offering personal service to prepare homes for the real estate market. Specializing in staging consultation, contractor coordination, and vacant staging to ensure homes are fresh and up to date, helping to catch the eye of home buyers. Details and testimonials at designtomarket.com.
Support for the State House News Bureau stories on WVXU comes from the Ohio Education Association, representing 131,000 teachers, support professionals, and higher education faculty who are working for great public schools for every child. Online at ohea.org. You're listening to 91.7 WVXU. Stay with us for the Daily, coming up in just about 10 minutes.
Local support for Marketplace comes from Sharonville Convention Center, focused on creating exceptional event experiences. New for 2023 will be the Todd Portune Exhibit Hall with a capacity of